Welcome back. The dedicated members of the Palm Springs Historical Society have been working hard to prevent a detailed account on the city's past. A prime example being a short film that they've produced to highlight one unique structure. Steve Summerall explains in the latest Our Desert Past.
The Cornelia White House is a small residence made out of old railroad ties, which happens to be the oldest surviving residential structure in Palm Springs. In 2020, the Palm Springs Historical Society, with the cooperation of the City of Palm Springs, produced a documentary titled The Restoration and Stabilization of the Cornelia White Residence. Tonight we are airing a segment of that documentary as an important part of Our Desert Past.
Cornelia White and her family were originally from New York. They were American pioneers. She was born in Upper New York State in 1874. She was from a large family, about 11 children, and they were quite wealthy. She went to Pratt Institute and studied architecture and art and took a position at the University of North Dakota as a professor. One of the senators from that state decided that he was going to start a colony in Mexico, an American colony. So she went to Mexico and with Carl Licken, who was a mining engineer, and they started this American colony, and it was based on agriculture. Right about the same time, the Mexican Revolution happened. President McKinley said that all Americans should get out of Mexico. And her sister, Florilla, who was a doctor, came to Mexico, and they started their trip out. All of the trains were at that point not running, and a lot of the tracks had been blown up. So they found a hand car, and they would go as far as they could until there was no more tracks, and then they would take everything off, and then, you know, they would push the cart up to the next hill and put everything back on. Well, they finally made it to Mazatlan. They got out of the country, and they came to San Diego. When Cornelia White actually came to town, the city had a store, Blanchard's store, and the Desert Inn, which had started in 1909, so it was still a tent city more than an actual hotel. When Cornelia White purchased her property from Wellwood Murray, she purchased it for $10,000, and it included the Palm Springs Hotel. What we call the Cornelia White House was actually a bungalow that was connected to the Palm Springs Hotel, and land that is where the plaza sits today.
But in 1944, she elects to sell the property to a future developer who built much of what is there today. In doing so, the town, recognizing the historic significance of Dr. Wellwood Murray's study, wanted to relocate it. So they arranged to get a house mover, a building mover, to provide pro bono services, picked up the building, and basically took it across the street, across Tockwitz, and located it on its next home site, which was directly in front of the Palm Springs Desert Museum. Years later, Cornelia White decides she wants to donate the house to the city of Palm Springs, and concurrently donate the land to the Desert Museum. And she makes these donations with the stipulation that she has the legal right to remain in the house until she dies. But the building was there for a number of years until she died in the early 1960s. Then it was decided that they were going to expand and change the facilities there.
They were actually going to tear the house down, and Ken Feenstra convinced the city council that they should move the house, and they actually put it up on, they took it off the foundation that it was on, they put it on flatbed trucks, and they drove it down Palm Canyon Drive.
To see this funny old house up on a trailer with its chimney in the air. Amazingly, the chimney stayed intact to the house, the stone chimney.
I think when people come to Palm Springs, certainly they may be motivated to come to Palm Springs because we are the modernism mecca of the world, but we have a history before 1950, and this is a huge part of that history.
As I previously mentioned, this was a segment of a documentary titled The Restoration and Stabilization of the Cornelia White Residence. If you would like to see this feature in its entirety, which I highly recommend, it can be found on the Palm Springs Preservation Foundation's YouTube page. With our Desert Past, this is Steve Summerall, NBC Palm Springs, News First.